Welcome to Red Flags with Elissa.
Welcome to Red Flags with Elissa. I'm your host, Abigail Vaca, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey through the intricate world of medical spa law. As a managing attorney with years of experience in this unique field, Elissa is here to shed light on the nuances and critical legal considerations that come with operating a medical spa. In this inaugural episode, we'll dive deep into the legal beauty of medical spas. We'll discuss what initially ignited her passion for this niche area of law and how she transitioned into it, because understanding the intersection of healthcare and beauty is essential in today's evolving market. So let's get started. Grab that notepad because you won't want to miss the expert tips and advice that could pave the way for your medical spa's success. Today's episode is the legal beauty of medical spas, Elissa Brewster's expert insights. Welcome, Elissa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's get started with the basics. What initially sparked your interest in specializing in medical spa law, and how did you transition into this unique area of practice?
So it was pretty much by accident. I am the daughter of a nurse, and I kind of fell into healthcare law and then realized that not only did I like it, but I understood it. I guess from sitting at my mom's side as she was a head nurse of major hospitals here in Houston. And then she later started her own home health agency. So I just learned a lot of things by osmosis and then just really enjoyed it and decided to go back and get a master's in healthcare administration and a certificate in health and hospital law to make sure that I really had the education and tools to advise my clients. So that's kind of how I fell into it. It's because I'm the daughter of a nurse, essentially.
That's an interesting transition. Yeah, so medical spa law is relatively niche. Can you walk us through what makes it so distinct from other areas of legal practice and why it's such a growing and essential sector?
Sure. So the difference with medical spas is that although it seems on the surface very fun, Botox parties or IV hydration after a girls' night or a bachelorette or, party, a lot of medical risks that the normal consumer may or may not be aware of. And so just in the work that I've been doing and doing one medical spa and then two and then three, really just having a passion for explaining that what I like to call either leapfrogging or hopscotching of how all of these different contracts are going to come together in order to have a compliant business. The reason, from my standpoint, that it's really important to have a healthcare attorney helping in this is that because healthcare law is very nuanced. And if you don't have an attorney that is experienced in and stark, especially in anti-kickback, understanding HIPAA and CMS guidelines and policies, then you really run the risk of having your business exposed, like more liability, being exposed to more liability. And then personally, as either a physician or an RN or a nurse practitioner or just a regular layperson who wants to, get into having a medical spa, if it is not set up correctly, there are civil and criminal liabilities that and penalties that can be assessed to either those individuals or that entity. And I have helped tons of people rectify the mess of them either setting it up themselves or just getting an attorney that's not experienced in healthcare specifically and correcting those problems to make sure that they are compliant, specifically with Texas law.
So it sounds like this can be challenging. What are some of the most common challenges that medical spas face today, and how do you help your clients navigate those issues?
One of the biggest challenges is that it's not set up properly. A lot of people know and understand that they need a medical director and they think that's all they need. Well, I got this person over here and they agreed to be my medical director and I'm going to pay them $10,000 a month. There's so many flags that go up. I do have flags around here somewhere. there's so many there's so many red flags that go up with that. And so really from my perspective, it's making sure that the people that want to have a medical spa, there's a difference between a med spa and a day spa, right? And making sure that they understand that difference. I want to be that little voice in the back of your head that when something is happening, because I'm just helping you set it up, you're going to be on the front line doing the day to day stuff or whomever, and making sure that they're like, I think Elissa mentioned something about this, or I think I might need to call her, that this might be more of a compliance issue than they like a normal layperson may think of. At my firm, one of the things that we are really proud of is we want to partner with all of our clients. So we want to be your legal sounding board to where you can call me and say, hey, this just happened. What do we do? Or what do you think? I don't give business advice, I give legal advice, but I can give you the pros and cons of different business scenarios specifically for your medical spa.
So, in your experience, what are some of the biggest legal pitfalls medical spa owners should be aware of when starting or running their businesses?
I would say the biggest one is that under the corporate practice of medicine doctrine or Texas, the practice must be majority owned by a physician. So that means that if I'm a nurse and I want to own a med spa, that I have to partner with a physician because a nurse cannot hire a doctor. There's a hierarchy, right? So a physician is only going to be able to essentially collaborate with other physicians. I like to tell people there's a pyramid, and I give this example all the time. The doctors at the top of the pyramid, they can diagnose and they can treat. They can do anything that's going to fall along those lines. Under the physician, then you have the nurse practitioners and the physician assistants. They still, while they can diagnose and treat, because they have the medical training in which to do so and they can write prescriptions, that still has to go up through a physician. There's a physician that is collaborating with them. Okay. And then after that, anybody after that has to follow the order of that physician. So like a nurse is, very well trained and very well instructed, and that nurse may know it's this diagnosis and this is going to be the treatment. They're not allowed to do that. That is considered practicing medicine without a license. So in that vein, if I'm a nurse and I own a medical spa outright and I hire a doctor to be my medical director, I've upset that balance, right? Because a nurse cannot hire a doctor. A doctor cannot be reporting to a nurse as to the treatment and diagnosis of what they're going to do. The nurse is the one that executes that plan, right? And works in tandem with the doctor, right? But you can't have a nurse directing those things for a medical spa. And so that's why it's really important. One of the biggest mistakes that I see repeatedly is that people will say, well, yeah, I'm a nurse and I got this doctor to be my medical director. For a med spa, that's not going to work. That physician has to be 51% owner. The nurse can be 49% owner. And then typically I will suggest an operating agreement that is then going to further delineate what that means. Because when we file something with the Secretary of State to get your LLC, to get your business formed, the Secretary of State is not necessarily concerned with the number of people, or if they see two people on there, they're assuming it's 50-50. They don't know which one's the doctor, they don't know which one's the nurse. But when there's situations where we have to delve a little deeper, then that operating agreement is the blueprint of that organization. And that blueprint is going to say Elissa is the 49%, Dr. Skittles, I love using candy as examples, Dr. Skittles is the 51% owner. These are the duties of Dr. Skittles. These are the duties of Elissa within this organization. And I always remind people that 51-49 split does not equal revenue. That's the biggest question. I don't want to give this doctor 51% of the revenue. That's not what we're doing. They just have 51% of the ownership.
That's so interesting. These aren't things that I would have ever thought of. So that leaves me with a follow-up question. Who are your typical clients in this industry, and how do you tailor your legal strategies to meet the specific needs of medical spa owners, professionals, and patients?
Sure. So I would say my typical client is typically a nurse or a nurse practitioner that wants to get into this in this field. The good thing about nurses and nurse practitioners or physician assistants is that they already have those connections with doctors, that they probably already know a doctor. A doctor may or may not be familiar with what is entailed. And that's where I come in to really break down the entire process and how this is going to work. I would also say I've had clients that are just investors and that they realize that there's a lot of money to be made from dealing with medical spas. But again, it has to be set up in such a way. Non-medical people can have a stake in a medical spa, and that's traditionally done through a management service organization or an MSO. And how I explain that to people as well is that the MSO is going to be everything administrative and the med spa is everything clinical. So if it's not clinical, it's admin, and the MSO can charge a fee to that med spa for the services that they will provide. It's all these different contracts, and why do I have to have 5 different contracts for this one thing? And that's where I tell people it's the hopscotching or the leapfrogging. With physicians, they can have, or they should have, an agreement for every hat that they're going to wear, right? Like most people, if I'm working for someone and they say, now we need you to do the windows, now we need you to take out the trash, now we need you to answer the phone, they're not paying me anymore to do that. I just got responsibilities, right? It's not the same thing with physician. Every new thing that that physician is going to do, they need a contract. So for every hat that that physician wears, like the hat of owning 51%, the hat of now contracting with the medical spa to be their that physician employment agreement, to be the medical director, to be the collaborating physician for that NP or PA, like all of those require new agreements. They can't all just be meshed into one big thing, 50-page document, and we're going to call it a day. That's not the best practice in which to do so.
So then, what role does compliance play in the success of medical spas, and how can owners ensure that they're adhering to both state and federal regulations?
That's a really great question. I would say one of the biggest things that medical spa owners can do is to partner with a healthcare attorney because we are uniquely educated and trained in those nuances. It is, again, really important to have that framework set up properly because it's not a matter of if, but when you get a complaint. And that complaint can be, I didn't like the color scrub she had on today, or the needle was a little too painful and I did not appreciate. I didn't realize that it was going to hurt getting an IV fluids, right? It's a plethora of things. And it literally just takes one complaint. It could be a legitimate complaint, or like I was saying, like, kind of surface complaints, superficial. It just literally takes that one complaint. And in terms of ongoing compliance, even if this entity is not accepting health insurance, right? You're not accepting the Blue Crosses and the Aetnas and the Uniteds, and it's all going to be cash. At least it's all cash, so I don't have to worry about that. No, yeah, you do, because we still got to follow HIPAA guidelines. We still have to follow CMS guidelines. And the advice that I like to give, I do not like to be on that line. I want to be so far away from that line that it's not even a question. But if you want to gamble and you're a betting person and you want to be closer to that line, then my job, as I see it, is to let you know we're getting real close. These are the ramifications. These are the problems that you may or may not encounter. And if it's worth it to that business owner to make that calculated business risk to roll the dice, so be it. But my job is to let you know we are getting real close to this line, and this may be a problem in the future, and to let that person know so they can make that informed decision. But we still got to follow HIPAA, right? HIPAA is still going to be in effect. We still got to follow PHI. We still, when you're taking those credit card payments, or there are still compliance things that we are going to have to follow to make sure that we're protecting that health information of those potential patients.
Absolutely. So let's end today. This got me thinking, with the growing popularity of medical spas, how do you see the industry evolving over the next few years? And how should business owners prepare for those changes?
I definitely think it is going to evolve. Right now, there isn't, at least for Texas, there is not like a governing body, like how you would have for nursing homes or assisted living centers or hospice. There isn't a governing body in that sense. So what we have to do then in that regard is to go back to the code as to what is regulating doctors, what is regulating nurses, and the boards and that way. I definitely think that within the coming years and the popularity, that there is probably going to be more legislation that is going to be mandating and ruling these types of healthcare facilities, because they are a healthcare provider in a sense. And I think the best way for medical spa owners to be apprised of those is to partner with an attorney, and make sure that you are aware of what's going on in healthcare law and any national or state changes that are taking place, and so that you can be prepared for what may come.
Thank you for joining us for Red Flags with Elissa Brewster. You can find her on www.brewsterlawtx.com.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.